This is Common Sense Radio. Straightforward and no excuses.
All right. Come on now.
This is the Steve Gruber Show.
Call me crazy.
Oh, yeah.
What I said was perfectly right and spot on accurate.
Boy's got a mouth like a cannon, always shooting it all.
Stop. Yeah, stop. I mean, you're way off script.
Got it in me. Gonna quit until it all comes out.
Hey, boy!
Been a long education.
Yeah, you know, it's not cynical. It's common sense.
Pay attention to me when I'm talking to you.
I'm gonna rock the nation. Rock the nation.
Genuine, accountable, and raw. Here is Steve Gruber.
Welcome to it. It is Wednesday. It is Wednesday, my friends. The hotline number here is 888-900-9966. 888-900-9966. The Democratic debate held in Las Vegas last night, fairly predictable, fairly dull, actually. None of the fireworks of the Republican get-togethers. And of course, Donald Trump wasn't there, spouting off, so I'm sure the ratings will be half. They'll be lucky if they get half the ratings that the Republicans had. One of the issues that is going to not be as prominent this year because of the Supreme Court ruling on gay marriage is the LGBT community in general. Won't be getting the kind of publicity that it would have garnered if the Supreme Court had ruled otherwise on gay marriage. But in the city of Houston, Texas, the question of rights in the transgender community, front and center. Former Major League Baseball star Lance Berkman, who spent a lot of time with the Houston Astros, he's not taking it anymore. Lance Berkman slugged 366 home runs for the Astros, Rangers, and Cardinals and Yankees during a 15-year career. And he just filmed a new commercial that has blasted the city's mayor, the city of Houston, that is. And they are, the people of Houston that don't want transgender people in their bathrooms are saying something. Alex, go ahead and roll that commercial.
I'm Lance Berkman. I've played professional baseball for 15 years, but my family is more important. My wife and I have 4 daughters. Proposition 1 would allow troubled men who claim to be women to enter women's bathrooms, showers, and locker rooms. It's better to prevent this danger by closing women's restrooms to men rather than waiting for a crime to happen. Join me to stop the violation of privacy and discrimination against women. Vote no on Proposition 1. No men in women's bathrooms, no boys in girls' showers or locker rooms.
Yeah, he's not getting a lot of praise from the LGBT community. He's homophobe and he's all these other things. The organization Houston Equal Rights Ordinance, that's what it's called, the Houston Equal Rights Ordinance, or HERO, would ban discrimination on a multitude of fronts, including sex, race, color, and ethnicity. Of course, sex, race, color, ethnicity, those things are already covered under federal and state statutes. Those opposed to the law have homed in on that protection that affords people who identify as a different gender than the one they were assigned at birth. And you notice in the commercial he refers to, he basically says that they have mental problems. It does Berkman. Berkman, in effect, says they have mental problems. He refers to them as troubled men. Troubled men, I mean, that alludes to mental problems. I want you to play it one more time, Alex, and let people hear it one more time. Go ahead.
I'm Lance Berkman. I've played professional baseball for 15 years, but my family is more important. My wife and I have 4 daughters. Proposition 1 would allow troubled men who claim to be women to enter women's bathrooms, showers, and locker rooms. It's better to prevent this danger by closing women's restrooms to men rather than waiting for a crime to happen. Join me to stop the violation of privacy and discrimination against women. Vote no on Proposition 1. No men in women's bathrooms, no boys in girls' showers or locker rooms.
He goes on a little bit from there, but you get the idea. You see, and here's, and this was the natural extension of the conversation. Gay marriage wasn't enough. Gay marriage wasn't enough. That you have to have something. You have to be a victim somewhere. If you can't be a victim somewhere, then that's the way they That's the way the left runs their political machine. There must be victims for it to work. There must be somebody to right the wrongs. They need the champions to come riding in and running roughshod over the rest of us to claim that these folks are victims. He has a lot more on the internet. You can hear a lot more from Lance Berkman. Not afraid to speak out. Said, I have 4 daughters. Listen, they come first. I'm not worried about a very small fractional percentage of the population that alleges to have some issue. All right, so I asked you here a little bit ago, and you didn't tell me yet. And by the way, I still have the post up about show me your favorite Halloween costume. We're going to be running that right through the end of the month until Halloween. So show me what you've got. You can find that at the Steve Gruber Show Facebook page as well. Find it just for fun. We need a distraction here once in a while. And speaking of Halloween, Wesleyan University placing itself on the front lines of the Halloween wars. I didn't know there were Halloween wars, but now I do. Wesleyan University putting out a newly published guide instructing students on how to avoid wearing offensive Halloween costumes. And my question to you, my friends, would be, if you don't see some Halloween costumes that are offensive, what good is the holiday? If you can't dress up as Donald Trump or Hillary Clinton or whatever else you want to dress up as, I'll need to get a bigger suit, apparently. Oops. The Halloween checklist, is your costume offensive? Asks the flyer produced by Wesleyan's Office of Student Affairs. Check yourself and check your friends, it says. The guide then asks students to consider whether a possible costume mocks cultural or religious symbols such as dreadlocks, headdresses, afros, bindis, etc. It also tells students to avoid costumes that attempt to represent an entire culture or ethnicity. It reminds me of a float I saw a picture of from a parade this summer in Boyne City. You can't offend people. The outfits Wesleyan warns against go well beyond racial stereotypes. The school also tells students not to wear costumes that would trivialize human suffering, oppression, or marginalization, such as costumes of prisoners, the mentally ill, or disabled people, or transgendered people. Students who are unsure about whether the costume is offensive are to encourage to contact a collection of Wesleyan departments, such as the Office of Equity and Inclusion. So you can call and say, hey, is my outfit offensive? Wouldn't it be possible that dressing up as an angel, a popular Halloween costume is an angel, maybe that offends people that are atheists, so we don't want to offend them. And if you dress up as the devil, maybe that would offend Christians. And maybe if you see where I'm going with it, it's just stupid. This is how your people, in fact, here's how dumb it is. One of the costumes that's off limits from such advice, according to the pamphlet, a mad scientist, because it might offend the mentally ill. I'm serious. Yeah, as it apparently recently happened when a dormitory at Harvey Mudd College was attacked for hosting a mad scientist party. Fans of Orange is the New Black, a prison comedy, can't dress up as a favorite character, and country-specific get-ups such as Canadian lumberjacks or a Japanese geisha girl are certainly off limits because those are found offensive by certain members of our society. Don't dress up as anything. That's what we take away here. 14 after on a Wednesday, it's the Steve Gruber Show.
Keeping you in touch with Michigan and the world.
18 after this part of the program brought to you by Mesa. Good business, good health, and great schools. It's the Steve Gruber Show on a Wednesday. Last night, listening to the presidential debate among the Democrats, you're just trying to figure out who can take your guns faster. I'm for more gun control. No, I'm for more gun control. It was kind of a comedy, actually, as far as that went. But here in Michigan, on the same day yesterday, a Michigan Senate panel approved gun bills that would allow concealed carry instead of open carry in schools and other areas that previously had been off limits. Senate Bills 442 and 561 would essentially swap those existing regulations, prohibiting open carry but allowing permit holders to seek an exemption to carry concealed weapons in schools, college dorms, sports stadiums, and other regulated venues. Here to talk about it is Senator Rick Jones of Grand Ledge. Rick, welcome back to the program.
Good morning. Yes, it was my committee yesterday that passed that.
Yeah, so all right. And we'll get to some of the critics here in a second. But let's talk about essentially swap existing regulations, because right now, if you have a CPL, a concealed pistol license, you could open carry in some places like schools and sports stadiums and other places that you cannot normally. And it makes some people uncomfortable. I get that. You know, people walking around with a 6-iron strapped to their hip can make some people unsettled. So the compromise is, okay, put it back under wraps and take it. Don't rub people's faces in it. Is that the intent then?
Well, absolutely. You know, here in Lansing, we had a guy put an AK-47 over his shoulder, walk into a library, and numerous schools have had people walk in with a pistol on their hip, and the vast majority of people don't want that. I think the guys that do that are seeking attention, and I think they hurt the pro-gun cause. So yesterday, Senator Green bill was passed out of my committee that said we're not going to have open carry in those areas, but you can conceal carry if you're a licensed citizen, and anybody that doesn't have a felony record or a recent drunk driving, doesn't have a mental illness, can get a concealed pistol license in Michigan.
So the only thing that prevents you from getting a concealed license in Michigan is a felony conviction, and you say recent drunk driving. Define that for us so people understand.
Well, if you get picked up for drunk driving and you have a CPL, your CPL is gone, period.
I understand that. But if you had a CPL, I don't know, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, whatever it may be, and you decide I want a CPL, are you eligible or not eligible?
Yes. No, that is not a problem.
Okay. So then the other part of this, Senate Bill 442 and Senate Bill 561, permit holders could seek an exemption. Tell me about this exemption to carry in schools, dorms, stadiums, so on and so forth. Is it like an endorsement on your CPL license?
Yeah, it's the same thing that retired police officers have. You say you want to carry in those areas, and as long as you meet all of the specifications, no domestic violence and, the various things that keep you from getting a CPL, it'll be a shell-issue state. We are a shell-issue state.
Well, I guess my point being is you couldn't get a concealed pistol license to begin with the things you just mentioned. So is there a higher standard to get this exemption to carry in a school, a dorm, a stadium, or is it, basically what you just told me it's the same bar I have to meet just to get a CPL? Is there anything different?
No, you are correct. It is basically the same thing. You're just asking to carry in those areas, and you're granted as long as you meet all of the requirements.
Fair enough. And what do you expect? The governor struck down a similar bill, vetoed a similar bill. I believe it is in December of 2012. In the aftermath of Newtown, he decided not to sign that bill at that time. What do you expect now?
Well, we're hoping he'll sign it this time because we've had so many people open carry in schools, causing confrontations, causing schools to be locked down. And it isn't good for the students. They have to leave their studies. All of a sudden, their school's locked down, and everybody's afraid. And it simply is something we don't need to have happen. So it's been overwhelming, the number of people that have called and said, get rid of this open carry stuff in schools, in libraries. It's just scaring everybody. And if somebody is properly checked out and licensed, I don't see a problem with concealed carry.
Now, of course, the opponents say, well, we should just eliminate guns in schools and libraries, just eliminate them altogether. No open carry, no concealed carry, no carry of any sort. And that's pretty well a non-starter in this state.
Well, it's a non-starter because the facts are against it. Professor Lott came to my committee yesterday and testified, and overwhelmingly, the mass shootings have occurred where it's a gun-free zone. In fact, some of them even had posted gun-free zone. That's the area the crazy people pick to go attack.
Yeah. And real quickly, powdered alcohol, is also a ban on powdered alcohol has passed the Michigan House. I know that's something you and I have talked about. So real quickly, that's quicker to becoming law in the state as well.
Yes, that's on the way to the governor's desk. We see no reason to have powdered alcohol in Michigan. There's deaths every year in universities and colleges where kids have too much. It is a poison if consumed too much, and we don't believe adding powder is going to help the situation.
All right. Senator Rick Jones, everybody, thank you so much for stopping in today. We'll talk soon.
Have a great day.
There you have it. Rick Jones bringing us up to date on some of the things happening out there. Quickly to the hotline, the Common Sense Hotline. David in Grand Rapids, welcome to the program.
Good morning. Sorry, I'm just sick of this. I feel, or people feel this. Go back to, I love your statement of, let's let math get involved. Let's let the facts bear it out. This is a bunch of BS that, you're finished with the alcohol. Powdered alcohol. Oh, a lot of people die. Yeah, a lot of people died by doctors and everything else. But, it's a joke. Let's get over our feelings and let's start getting to facts. And facts aren't, causing people to not want to have a gun, see somebody with a gun on their hip. If we get a few more out there, we might be used to it, and then we're going to be the other way.
David, I greatly appreciate you checking in. It's the Steve Gruber Show on a Wednesday. We'll be right back.
Taking a closer look at the stories that affect you most with a big dose of common sense.
Well, I don't know why I came here tonight. I got the feeling that something ain't right. I'm so scared.
Well, I didn't find the debate last night, the Democratic debate, to be... Yeah, it wasn't. Well, frankly, it was boring. I tried to sugarcoat it there for a second. I couldn't help myself. It was kind of dull and predictable for the most part. And then the goalie stepped in. Bernie Sanders, the goalie, stepped in to say, we don't want to hear any more about Hillary's emails. Actually, we do. We want to hear a lot more about Hillary's emails and if we were vulnerable and susceptible to intrusion by the Russians or the Chinese or others. So let's not get too carried away there, Bernie, but I appreciate you playing goalie. On a more technical aspect, looking at the internet, it says that Bernie Sanders and Jim Webb came out on top in that debate. What do you think? We're going to ask our next guest, Aaron Kall, director of the University of Michigan Debate Program and Debate Institute, about how it came out. Aaron, welcome to the program.
Thanks for having me.
You were able to stay awake through the whole thing?
I was. It seemed longer, about 2.5 hours with all the commercials. It was difficult, but I weathered through it.
Yeah. Did you consume mass quantities of Red Bull, or did you do it straight? I'm just joking.
No, it's my job.
I understand. So give me an idea. I mean, I actually thought that, Jim Webb, when he was given an opportunity to speak, he seemed a little edgy about it, but I think he was able to get some points in. And what was different about him is, well, he was different. He didn't give the same answers as everybody else. He had a different point of view on some things. He just didn't get a lot of time. Do you think these debates are set up properly to help the voters, or are they just kind of an exercise in an extension of campaigns? How do you look at these?
No, I think that it's a combination of both. I think that the time given to the different candidates kind of mirrors how they're doing in the poll numbers, and so Clinton and Sanders are going to get more time than Webb and Chafee and things like that. But the decks are stacked, pretty strongly against the minor, the second-tier candidates, and it's these debates are really set up for the favorites to do well and to really get their agendas across to a wide audience.
Yeah. So how would you set these up to be more instructive? I mean, this is, like you said, it's your job. If you're going to make this more productive, how would you do it?
Well, it's tough because these candidates are so disciplined and they have their talking points. But I thought in the two previous Republican debates, the moderators did a little bit better job of some, getting some back and forth between the candidates to try to contrast the positions. The problem is in last night's debate, there really wasn't, that kind of, there's, not a lot of personality conflict between the candidates, not a lot of animosity, and so it's really tough even for the moderators to kind of, to do their jobs. And, you mentioned in the intro Bernie Sanders trying to shut down the email question, and, that was, one of kind of the largest applause lines of the night, but it was something that really helped the candidacy of Hillary Clinton, and so that's not what you think of when you think of a typical debate.
So let's talk about the debate itself last night. Flawed as the format may be, and it is, but as flawed as that may be, who do you think performed the best under the rules put forth?
I think that Hillary Clinton had the best overall performance. There's a lot of questions coming in about the emails and Benghazi, and on the questions of email itself, that the argument didn't get raised for about an hour into the program, and when it did, both the other candidates and the crowd, kind of turned against the moderator. So, any time that she's not talking about that issue, I think is positive. And she was very prepared, and she had some, good lines. And I thought, was very strong overall, and really tried to, pitched her candidacy as historic, trying to be the first female president. And overall, I thought she came across very polished and had a pretty good night. And I think you may see that kind of in the polls going forward.
I suppose we'll see. The fact of the matter is the American people, by and large, see her as untrustworthy. So, being in a partisan crowd that, booed the moderator, Anderson Cooper, for bringing up the email deal. If it had been the Republican get-together and one of the Republicans had that same email problem and was a front-runner, it would have been the first question out of the gate. Make no mistake. I worked for NBC News for 14 years. I get how it works on the inside. It's like sausage. You wouldn't want to know it yourself, but I can tell you that, and I think you would agree with me, Aaron, that the first question to a Republican would not have been the way it started for the Democrats. Do you believe that or not?
Yes, it was as I mentioned, very surprising that major issue was not brought up until about an hour into the debate. They started the conversation on things like gun control, and they went to foreign policy, and that issue didn't come up till later in the debate. And especially surprising because the time, it started about 15, 20 minutes late, and by the time they got to the issue that a lot of people are interested in, at that time it's already 10 o'clock, and you've lost some part of the audience. So I definitely was surprising to see that. Although as a debate coach, a great tactic always, whether it's the Republican or Democratic debate, is to always kind of use the audience to go against the moderator, and that's something that's worked. Newt Gingrich did it to his success in the last cycle, and so it's a trick that always works with the candidates, and it worked again last night.
Yeah, he used it to some success, but of course, Newt Gingrich was not the nominee, and in fact, his candidacy plummeted. So let me ask you this: on the Republican side, on the last debate, I thought that Marco Rubio came across as with the best answers, the best responses, smooth, educated. If you saw Marco Rubio against a Hillary Clinton, how would you foresee a debate of that nature going?
That'd be, I think, a pretty good debate. I think both of them are, good speakers and are well prepared. I thought that in the last debate, Rubio spent a lot more time on foreign policy and his experience on the various committees, and that wasn't something that Hillary talked much about last night. It's kind of more focused on domestic issues, and so.
Kind of surprising, wouldn't you think?
Yeah.
Kind of surprising. The former Secretary of State doesn't talk much about foreign policy. Of course, if you look around the world, I might not bring it up either, being in her position. So I think that would be an interesting debate, Marco Rubio and Hillary Clinton. So I guess so far, the best debater, in your opinion, on the left has been Hillary Clinton. On the right, I've talked about Marco, but who do you pick so far as who's performed the best in these debates?
I thought Rubio had an excellent last debate, and I think you saw that with a bump in his approval rating since then, and he's doing very well in the fundraising. I thought Carly Fiorina had an excellent debate last time, and I think Donald Trump has been pretty good in both the states. So I think all of them are formidable, and it'd be, kind of once we get to that process, I think it'd be a good overall debate to see, and especially, as you mentioned, over issues of foreign policy, things like immigration. I think it'd be a pretty good debate once we get to that stage.
Yeah, substantive conversations. Aaron Kall, director of the University of Michigan debate program, thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, there you have it, Aaron Kall. U of M debate program and debate institute over the Democratic debate. I guess he thought Hillary won. People online seem to think that it was Bernie and Jim Webb that came in first and second, and then Hillary in third position. I've seen that on some not official and not scientific polls, but polls nonetheless that came immediately after the get-together last night in Las Vegas. Straight ahead, we'll have Julie Gunlock here on the program, one of my favorites, talking about pregnancy, obesity, and a study done to target minorities at taxpayer expense. I'll explain. Sit tight, we'll explain. Julie Gunlock, straight ahead right here on The Steve Gruber Show.
Delivering Michigan common sense with a big dose of truth and honesty.
I wanna live. I wanna
It's 45 after the hour.
I've been
Wednesday here on The Steve Gruber Show. All right, hide the women and children because, when Gunlock's here, you never know what's going to happen, all right? So just hide the women and children because, crazy things are said during this segment of the program on a regular basis. Julie Gunlock, Senior Fellow at the Independent Women's Forum, joining me back on the show. Julie, welcome back.
Thanks for having me.
So here we go. You ready?
Yes.
Put on your helmet. Apparently someone at the National Institutes for Health is taking "Yo Mama's so fat" jokes way too seriously. I just had to say that. Because they're studying, "Yo Mama is so fat when she sits around the house, she sits around the house." You know the jokes. Yeah. Anyhow, you're focusing on a study here by the federal government spending $1.5 million. The National Institutes of Health sponsoring a continuing grant for the University of California, Berkeley, to compare women's weight gain before, during, and after pregnancy, and based on race and ethnicity. By the way,
Yeah.
Ryan Ellis, the tax policy director at Americans for Tax Reform, made the comment about the "Yo Mama so fat" jokes. I just repeated it well. Julie, here we are. Really? We're gonna study the weight gain of this is blatantly a race-related study.
Well, the thing is, and I actually defended the study. Shockingly, I did. And look, there is some concern about obesity in minority communities. They suffer a higher rate of obesity, and a lot of that is also it has to do with particular diets, traditions in certain cultures and how they eat, and also poverty also plays a role. And so they are looking at why certain members of minority communities do gain weight. This also has to do with the child. Children whose parents are obese tend to also develop childhood obesity, which, that's kind of obvious. We know why, because, if the parents are eating bad, the children often eat badly. But the reason I defended this study is because, look, we have a lot of legislators out there who want to ban sodas or want to ban toys and Happy Meals or all these other things instead of considering the real reason for obesity, which is it's a very complicated issue. It has a lot to do with genetics. So in some ways, I like to see that there are studies being funded that don't sort of point to a regulatory answer. It's really something that we have to educate people. We have to give them more information to let them know that their behavior affects their children.
I sit here and I'm, my brain wanders when we talk about such things because I think about the different places, where they can regulate and control and make. And you're right about the nutritional value. In urban areas, some people call these nutritional deserts oftentimes because the food that's available is processed food. You don't have fresh fruits and vegetables and so forth. And that is a serious and legitimate concern and conversation to have. And if that's the focus of the study, then I guess I would have to consider what you have to say and go from there. Because that is a serious concern. Nutrition for adults and children alike in some of these areas where they can't get easy access to fresh fruit, produce, baked goods, whatever it may be.
Yeah, there is some concern about that. Interestingly, the sort of term food deserts has been debunked. There has been some really good studies from some research institutions. I think RAND also did some research into this and showing that it's kind of a myth that there are food deserts out there. And frankly, most especially urban areas, there's an actual concentration of places where people can get healthy food. Even 7-Elevens now are carrying bananas and apples and fresher fruits and and other snacks that are healthier. But look, the real issue here is choices. People make bad choices. That's part of human nature. That's part of being human, is not always making good choices. What's frustrating to a lot of people who follow these issues is that if we want a truly free society, people have to be free to make the decisions that I may disagree with. There are lots of things out there that people can do that is not healthy, and we can't outlaw everything. And so, from a public policy standpoint, I think it is important that we consider factors such as genetics and just again other personal choice that's contributing to the obesity crisis. Not necessarily that there isn't enough things in the marketplace or there are too many things in the marketplace, and that's where so often policymakers are going. They try to limit choices. They try to limit people's access to certain things, and that's a policy that we should all agree with.
Well, and I think that there's some truth there about as far as looking at genetic predispositions for, well, maybe it's obesity or diabetes or whatever the situation may be. But all too often, science is set aside in pursuit of political correctness. As you well know, may I direct your attention to a thing we call global climate change. Science is set aside in pursuit of political correctness and expediency, even though it may not have much foundation in fact itself. So I'm going to go ahead and say, Julie, I agree with you on the fact that, we should look at such things. And it might actually set a positive precedent and say, listen, there are differences between the white community and the black community and the Hispanic community when it comes to certain things, medically related, biologically related, rooted in our DNA. Yeah, we really, and honestly, these minority communities have got to be aware of that there is a cost associated with eating certain ways, and that you have a responsibility to your children to also show them what a healthy meal is, what healthy eating is. Sure. I understand. I read this article, and I was sort of the odd man out defending the federal dollars going to fund this. I think you stated your case well.
I think some research is warranted.
Yeah, I think you stated your case well. But in my pursuit of working on finding the most offensive Halloween costume I can, let's work on this for a second. Your mama is so fat, her polo shirt has a real horse on it. No. Your mama's so fat, when she took a selfie, she took it with Google Earth. Okay, never mind. Julie Gunlock, always a pleasure.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, bye.